those who will be joining the Sacred Heart Chapel Chat, our very first one, over the next coming weeks. So it's good having you. We're the Delkamillers, at least 3/5 of the Delkamillers. My name is Corey.
My name is Naomi. And I'm Julie.
And Naomi is our youngest of our 3 daughters. So we have the opportunity today to chat with each other and share what our experience and understanding of what church means to us. And when I found out that we were in the chapel, I couldn't help but think about the stars that are up above. You can't see them right now, but there are stars on the ceiling. And I thought that it was kind of an apt analogy for church, because church is a place of formation, and same thing with the stars. I mean, there are different sizes, there are different shapes, there are different intensities, but the star factories, the nebula, they're meant to produce these stars that give light and shine and warmth to the planets and the cosmos around them. And so that's kind of like our church is meant to bring out the best in us. It's meant to form and shape us in ways that we embrace our goodness and are able to be light then for others. So we're going to talk about how Sacred Heart in particular, but the church, the larger church, has formed and shaped us to be people of light, to be who we're called to be.
So yeah, we, Corey and I first came here in 1992, and Corey joined me shortly thereafter, and I loved seeing all these different groups of people, of different walks of life, and felt very welcomed from the very, very beginning. And at that time, the 1030 choir actually kind of looked more like what it's looking like today because of COVID. But at that time, there were like 6 or 8 of us, and I joined singing at the time and was like, okay, great. I felt like I belonged in something. And shortly thereafter, met a deaf family, and I talked to the pastor at the time, who was Father Jim Schultz. And I just said, okay, well, I'm not a certified interpreter yet, but, I could do this. And he's like, well, of course, you use whatever gifts and talents you have to welcome others. And I remember just being like, yeah, that's how we were called to welcome people. And so, yeah, I was empowered because I figured that it's easier to find people to sing than to sign. And so it's been great over the years to just see this church be one church with various gifts and talents and individuals. And then I think about the church being one church university across the world, and how there was one of my trips to Nicaragua where we have a school for deaf students in Leon, and went to church, and I didn't know Spanish, but went to a Catholic mass in Nicaragua, and it was the first time at that parish, and so they must have recognized we obviously don't look like anyone they had seen, and he came up to me and asked me to bring the gifts up to the altar, and I remember thinking, wow, that is one church, that sense of welcoming, and that I knew what that meant, even in a completely different country, and that there was a church welcoming somebody else. So ultimately then, Corey and I got married here in 1995. The church looked a lot different, but it was pretty full, and we had the 1030 choir with us, and we just wanted to celebrate so much, and ultimately decided to raise our 3 daughters. We have Maya, Lydia, and Naomi. Our youngest one's still at home. So, Corey, were you gonna?
Well, I thought Naomi could share a little bit about what she remembers, kind of your own timeline.
Yeah. One thing I love thinking about is how my parents' timeline has been occurring, much earlier than mine. Not too much, but like before mine. And I only have 17 years, but yet I feel like just so welcomed. And even though my timeline is shorter than a lot of people who go here, I still feel like I have a place here, and that place is always going to be here for me, and no matter wherever I go to college, wherever I end up living my life or anything like that. or whatever we're going through in general, there's just always a place here that's just reserved, I think, for everybody, no matter how many times you come or when you come. I think a lot about if you were here when the church was undergoing renovations, and we would go to church in the school gym over here, and that feels like a long time ago, but I just remember that even though we weren't in the same space, that same unity came with us across the street. And yeah, it's a totally different setting, but I just remember that still being there. Another thing I wanted to talk about was how not only welcomed I felt, but accepted. I mean, I don't think I understood that concept in the stories I'm going to tell you, because I was like 7, 8, so like I didn't really understand it, but the fact that I didn't like have to understand what it wasn't, if that makes any sense, like I didn't feel like I was missing something, or that I had to go like search for it, or it was just there, so I didn't have to second guess it, or
What was the it piece?
The it piece is the acceptance of when I would go up and sign with mom, or I felt so comfortable going to reconciliation, something that was a little bit daunting in 2nd grade, but I just felt accepted and welcome and united. And the same thing goes with Father Jim O'Kane. He would often come when Father Tom couldn't be here, and there was one time where I just felt so comfortable to just go up to him and say, I love your homily. At the time, I was in 3rd grade, and we were learning about the writing process and how you have your intro, the body with your like lettuce, tomatoes, hamburger, and then the bottom of your bun. And I remember just going up to him and being like, that was such a good hamburger.
Yes.
And so I think that just goes to show a lot that even though I was young or old, like we're all just accepted, and there's this sense of we are all one. And as cool as Father Dave is, you know, the playing field is we're all one human, if that makes any sense.
One human family.
One human family,
Yeah, not one human.
No, I
mean, kind of.
one human family, and yeah, that's just kind of what I've been thinking of. But yeah,
And we've also, we were gonna just like, we experienced through some tough times too. We've really experienced support here. And I think that's what, regardless of where people go to church, that's what this idea of the Archdiocesan statement is: one church, that we're lifting each other up, and we've had the healing and in various ways, but it also feels like home with your 5-year.
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting for our 5-year anniversary. Part of the plan
20
was,
years ago.
Yeah, it was 20 years ago. Part of the plan was to have Julie blindfolded and have her come, bring her to the church, Sacred Heart building, and I carried her across the threshold, and she knew immediately when I opened up the door and walked in. She knew that this was Sacred Heart because there was a familiarity, and I think that's part of, I think the beauty of Sacred Heart is there is a familiarity. And it's not just because of the building itself, it's because of what Naomi was talking about. It's just that you feel accepted, and you're able to receive that mercy from other people, and then in turn be that mercy for others and to live that gospel, because it's all about encountering Jesus. It's equipping discipleship, and then it's moving out, it's living it, and that's because it doesn't stay here. This is just a place to encounter, right? It's a place to encounter Christ through others.
And it was pretty awesome with their baptisms of our girls too. I mean, there's stories around all of them, but the community has watched them grow. Mm-hmm. And Naomi's growth, it might have started with telling Grandfather O'Kane about the hamburger, and his homily was really good, but it has since grown into a blog.
Yeah. So since, what was it? Early 2018, freshman year of high school, I started a blog, and ever since then, I will be greeted with comments almost every time I come here about, I loved what you wrote, like this really made me think of blah, 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 or you inspired me in this way, or, most recently, when are you going to write next? But I've just always been able to come here and just feel supported, and not only the mercy that Dad was talking about it, but like the encouragement, the internal encouragement that we give to each other that then encourages me to go out and give that to others outside of this place. So,
and I love the blog that you have. It's kind of that merging of our physical presence here, but then the online, which now we do have. One of the benefits of COVID, we are now part of this chapel chat, and now trying to connect with you in your small groups, is to have these connections no matter where we are, which is what we're called to do in one church.
Well, and one of the things that I just appreciate is having the opportunity to come back and be reminded. I need to be reminded on a regular basis to be a person of gratitude, and so it's I don't look at it as an obligation to be church on the weekend. I look at it as an opportunity to be reminded that I am enough, to be reminded that I have goodness to give. And that other people have goodness to give, and to receive that, and just to get my tanks filled for the week, so I can be that light that we talked about at the beginning, to be able to shine as bright as possible. But I need to be reminded of that. And so Naomi always asks me after communion. She always says, "Well, Dad, what are you grateful for?" Because that's really the heart of what church is about. It's about experiencing and receiving, being gracious, receiving, the graciousness of God in a variety of ways, and being grateful for that, and then in turn being moved to want to share that with others. And so she always asks me after communion, "Well, Dad, what are you grateful for?" So we always get to share that moment after communion together.
And we're able to connect it back to the wedding. We had a theme for our wedding of gratitude. And we knew we wanted to live our life out in gratitude. And so we both walked down the aisle to thank you, Lord. And we had the gospel passage of the 10 lepers and how that were healed, and one of them going back to be thankful, which Mom, I know, wasn't a fond of. It seemed to fit that gospel passage for a wedding. Right. But yet it was something that we were grounded in, and we've been thankful for this community. We've been thankful for our faith life, for our church of being encouraging us, and knowing that the community has changed. It's ebbed and flowed throughout the years, and yet we've had years where we've had lots of little deaf kids, and we've had other years where now we've got some older ones, and maybe people come and go, but I think we are trying to be very welcoming. And being that one church, and recognizing the giftedness of each individual, but yet opening our arms and building community. So, you want to finish with your?
I guess one of the things I want to add too is that we're all in process, right? We're just.
The stars.
Yeah, it's a continual journey, and so in that process, there's going to be moments where we're not our best, where we might come to be church together and not be in a very good space, in terms of how I feel about myself or things that are going on in our lives, and I might not be bringing my best self. And you know what, that's okay too, because the church is called to be a merciful church, a church that forgives, because in that forgiving there's healing. And then I can go back out, or you guys can go back out and be our better selves, and be equipped once again to live the gospel and to share that good news and to bring this sense of Christ's liberation and salvation to others, because we've encountered it. We've encountered it here in the smaller of the larger church called Sacred Heart. And so we come with all of our stuff, right?
Blessed and broken.
Blessed and broken. And so we bring that to the community. And so we just ask for forgiveness for the times that we don't, just sometimes you're not your best.
Yeah.
And so the community reminds us, okay, we can forgive each other. And we need to be open to that forgiveness.
And also that we can handle the transitions, because if we are able to go across the street and have mass and then come back and go through like the pastoral changes, Father Tom, Father Dave, and now this pandemic, I think that just shows that the church and especially Sacred Heart is going to be around for a long time.
And
with everyone sharing their gifts and talents, which I need to say, thankful to Mary Nickemeyer here for doing the interpreting when I can't, which is part of the beauty, as well as allowing people to share their gifts. It doesn't have to be one person, nor should it be one person, and that's the beauty of this. And so I know we're going to have some questions and some topics or whatever for the groups to discuss, and primarily thinking of when have you felt like you've belonged, and when you felt that unity.
So we are out of time,
yeah.
but I just would like to finish up by saying, whether you are part of a church community or not part of a church community, wherever it is that you are at in your life, just want to encourage you to be open to that graciousness of God, however God is finding you, and allow yourself to be fed by that graciousness so that you too can, as we mentioned at the beginning, be that light that you are, and to discover that light and let it shine brightly, just like Sacred Heart has given us the opportunity to recognize the light within us, and to share that with others. So go be light.